What's up, Jerry? You're back, man. Where you been? I thought I scared you with my golf game. I love it. I love it. Well, first off, I want to thank Sammy and Ronald for their contributions to this team and the organization. They gave it their all the whole time they were here. Even, I did my recon on these guys before I even took the job. And once I got here, and, I can't say I got to know these guys as deep as you would like to, but all of my interactions with them were great men, good football players, obviously, and I wish them the best. This is not easy. This is I'm an emotional, personal guy, and I want to get to know all these guys personally, and that's the hard part of it. Business is business, but when you have to call these young men in, it affects their lives. That's not easy, and Sean and I did that earlier today as they move forward in their journeys to L.A. and to Philadelphia, respectively. So, again, I wish those guys the best and appreciate what they did for the Buffalo Bills.
What gave you the confidence that you can make this move? Because, and what prompted this move in continuing to reshape a roster that's really been reshaped since even before you got it?
Yeah. What prompted the moves were they were two separate moves, even though fortunately the timing worked out the way I wanted. I did get that, but I was not shopping these guys. Had calls from multiple teams about Sammy all the way back in June, shortly after I took over the job. And so, those things happen all the time. People, I think I mentioned it before, people ask about different players all the time around this league. You never know what's serious or what's just bait. But again, I was not, and we were not actively shopping either of these guys. We're not actively shopping anybody, but it became L.A. got very serious about Sammy, and Philadelphia got very serious about Ronald, and the timing worked out. And as I realized the timing worked out, I was able to acquire Jordan to help fill in for Sammy, and E.J. Gaines to help fill in for losing Ronald.
So were these deals made in concert with one another, meaning would you have not made one if you couldn't make both?
It's hard to say if I wouldn't have. It's funny, both of them were getting similar traction, similar momentum the last couple of days. And once I saw both of them as far down the road as they were getting, I kind of said I want to do them together if I can. If somebody had backed out, I don't know, because the discussion I had, the first time I really sat down and laid this out for Sean and Terry was after the game last night. I didn't want there to be a distraction. So I laid it out what was potentially, nothing had been agreed upon, but where things were very close. And, that's kind of where it was. Nobody backed out at that point, and we finalized them this morning.
When you sat down with Terry, what was his role in that process? Did he allow you to make the decision, or how much did he have influence over?
Everything's a we. We talk, and everything is a we. We all threw everything around the people, the players, the men, what they've done, who the players that we're acquiring, the draft picks, everything went in. And listen, this was not an easy decision. Again, business is business. There's also emotional. These are two fine young men. Yes. No, that's good. That's good.
How much of this has to do with next year and the currency you got in regards to draft? I mean, this year is this year, you want to win, but I mean, how much of this was thinking ahead to the future and what you could gain in assets from the draft?
I said it with the day we signed Anquan, I'm always going to try to win today and win tomorrow. And that's the nature. That's how I'm wired. That's how I think you win in this league. So, again, if I'm coming off of a 14-2 season, if someone offers me something that I think is good capital and is a worthy investment, I have to consider it, and that's what happened here.
Brandon, is this team better after these moves for the current situation currently? Is this team better after these trades?
For the 2017 season, you can make arguments either way. I'm thrilled that losing a guy like Sammy, we were able to acquire a guy with Jordan Matthews' skins on the wall. EJ has started 25 games in this league. He was on the NFL all-rookie team. So he's got some pedigree. He's not walking in here not knowing what to expect. He'll compete with the other corners. He's not guaranteed a spot, but he'll come in, and we'll see where it goes.
Brandon, you said that when you said that LA and Philly respectively got serious on these deals, does that mean that they pretty much made initial contact with you about this?
Yes.
Even whether it was going back to May or recently?
Yes, they both actively asked me about these two guys. I was not shopping them.
And as far as Jordan is concerned, he's primarily played the slot. Anquan's primarily played the slot. You've been having Zay in the slot. How does all that shake out at wide receiver?
They can all, they can all play outside as well. That may be where they've been used. Jordan on that team, Philly, the way they used him was a lot in the slot, but you can see he can win outside. Again, I'll leave where they go and how they line up with Rick and Sean and those guys. He's another great addition for us. So.
You said you've been taking calls about Sammy since June. What was the tipping point for you? What part of that deal made it worth giving up on someone as talented as him?
Well, you have to consider everything. You have to consider re-signability, the draft value. A lot of things went into this. It wasn't one single thing. And, you balance it all and you make it, the best decision you can.
Where did the fact that Sammy had 10 injuries since coming to Buffalo figure in, and the fact that you could very well lose him for nothing, one more injury, and as an asset, he really...
You do have to consider everything. Again, it's what he's done in his career over his 3 seasons, how much he's played. You do consider all that. And again, he's going into his last year of his deal. And, signability, cap situation, everything honestly went into this decision. It was not looking at one factor or another.
You said that Jordan and EJ are both filling in for Sammy and Darby. Does that sense to you mean there won't be any push right away to re-sign them for the future, considering they're both in the final years of the deals?
Well, I've been around Jordan a little bit in the draft process, so I know who he is a little bit. I don't know EJ as well. That'll just be getting them in here competing, seeing how they fit. When you sign somebody in the future, that's got to be a mutual fit. They got to want to be here. We got to see how they fit in the locker room, the culture, the coaching. All that goes into it, so we got time on that. The first thing is just if we were going to do these moves, one, to do them now so that we still have 3 exhibition games, a lot of training camp left to figure out how these guys fit moving forward.
When you trade the team's best receiver, the top cornerback, how do you sell that to the veterans inside the locker room that, hey, we're still trying to win this season?
Well, it's hard because, these guys are talented players, but there's the human element. And you obviously, nobody wants to see a friend walk out the door, even no matter what you thought of his talent. And so you got the human side of it as well with these guys. Hopefully they'll understand. They don't necessarily know Jordan. LaShawn knew him a little bit, I know, from Philly, but most of the guys don't know Jordan or EJ. So, hopefully they'll reserve judgment till those guys get in and strap the pads on and jump in with them, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Brandon, do you have any players on this roster that you would consider untouchable at this moment?
I don't like the word untouchable. I'm not actively shopping guys, selling guys, anything like that. That's the honest to God truth. It's just you're always looking in this business to help yourself now and tomorrow, and that's the facts. And so I can't stand up here and say I would never trade another guy in the next 3 weeks, but I'm not actively shopping anybody.
Brandon, what's to say about a team that, by my count, not including the 6 draft picks this year, this team now has 14 players that it has selected in the draft on its roster currently. What does it say about this team and how the assets haven't turned out?
Well, again, I'm just walking in the door, so it's not fair for me to totally assess all that. There's various reasons why the guys that are the 14, if that's the exact number, that are still here, and the guys that are gone. Again, it's not an indictment as if that's what you're trying to get. It's the nature of the beast. Rosters change over. It's a new regime, so to speak, and we're trying to do everything that we can to build the right team the right way. Sustained success is the word I used the day I took this job, and that's where I'm at today.
Brandon, what can you tell us about how Jordan fits into your receiver mix? What does he bring to your mix of receivers?
Well, he's a tough kid. I think he's one of 5 first year or the first 3 years of his career to have 65 receptions, 800 yards. It's a pretty good group he's in. So he knows how to play. He's a tough kid. He's kind of a self-made man. He was not recruited heavily. Played at Vanderbilt, which is in the SEC, but nobody realizes they're in the SEC all the time. But he's a tough kid. He's going to work hard. He's a smart kid. He knows the game. My understanding, I knew who he was in college. My understanding is he's that same young man in Philly, that you're not going to outwork him. He's going to bring leadership, toughness, and our kind of guy.
Brandon, have
you received
any indication from Sammy? I know you were here during the fifth-year option decision. You hadn't been here yet.
Right.
But through the process of you being here, did you have any indication maybe that he kind of steered away and said, I don't want to be in Buffalo beyond this year, and he was leaning that way? And was that any part of your thought process of making this deal? And also, I want to ask, is this still contingent everything on physicals from these guys?
This is still contingent on physicals. There's 4 players involved in both of our transactions. So, yes, if someone does not pass a physical, then the players would revert back. Your first question, I had no inkling where Sammy was, wanting to be and all that, to be honest with you. And to be fair to him, I never asked him that, or nobody directly told me anything.
Brandon, with 6 picks in next year's draft now, or in the first 3 rounds anyway of next year's draft, how much would you say you're betting on yourself in your front office?
I believe in our scouting staff. I definitely do, and I believe in what the work the men are. They just left last week, the college guys, and you have to draft well in this league to win. That's the financial model. Those players are the most affordable, so that helps us to have that kind of currency in the first 3 rounds at the prices that you pay those guys versus getting into free agency and other avenues to bring players. So.
You're just new in the door here, but after trades like today, how much more does this feel like yours and Sean's team, because you're accumulating assets for the future as opposed to what had been here already?
Yeah, and I'm not one that believes I didn't draft him, so I don't care about him. That is zero. If they're a good player and they can help us win a game today, then I'll love them. I'll take them every time. So it's not about getting the guys only that Sean and I brought in here versus the regime before we got here. There's a lot of guys that have jumped right on board doing the things that Sean and his staff have asked, and we look forward to continually working with those guys.
Brandon, have you received any phone calls on the availability of Reggie Ragland, and if so, what have you said?
I wouldn't comment on any. We get lots of inquiries, so I don't want to go into who's asked about what players.
What does this move say about Tyrod Taylor's future in Buffalo?
It doesn't say anything. I mean, everybody's forgetting we signed Anquan last week. This is not a throw in the towel thing at all. And somebody mentioned that somebody said that out there, and that, quite honestly, that's annoying to me, because that's not. You don't know me if you think I'm throwing in the towel. If we go out there and play ping pong or whatever we're going to do, I'm not throwing in the towel. If we were throwing in the towel, I wouldn't have been trying to get a starting receiver back. So, to your question on Tyrod, it's nothing. We got Anquan, who we added, who is, I told you, I honestly believe he's a Hall of Famer, and he still can play in this league. And Jordan Matthews is a starting receiver, and you look at his numbers, what he's done. Those aren't to be laughed at, I guess to say. So Tyrod will get every opportunity to lead this team, and we're all rooting for him. It's in our best interest.
How did he react?
Who blows the top off of defense?
We have different guys that can run. Streeter can run. Walt Powell can run. We have some different guys, and who knows? There's other ways to add more speed. We're always looking for talent. We play in a month, so the main thing is to have our roster set when we host the Jets September 10th.
Two more questions for Brandon.
How did Tyrod react to the?
You know what? I have not spoken to Tyrod. Sean and I spoke to the players involved, and then Sean had a team meeting, and he could probably better answer that if he spoke directly to Tyrod. I have not.
Brandon, what is the long-term approach here with the offense? Because you got Bolden locked in for a year, Tyrod for a year. I mean, are we looking at a full-on rebuild next season? I mean, realistically, you're going to have a lot of new additions to make next season.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm taking this year one at a time. It doesn't mean that we cannot extend any of these guys. if Anquan wants to keep playing and he's a good fit here and he likes it here, we could always extend him. Tyrod is the number one quarterback on this team right now, and we'll let that play out before we decide how it goes, into 2018 and beyond.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys. Jerry, good seeing you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions.
Sean, do you think that the roster you have now for this season is better after these moves have been made?
Well, I know this. I know we've got what we're looking at is a quality, still a quality group of receivers. When you talk about bringing in a guy like Jordan Matthews, and you add him to who's already here with Anquan, who was not even on the field last night, and Zay, and then the rest of the guys that you saw last night. So, I know that where you're going with that, and we're bringing in a corner with this deal that has started games, started a number of games, and he's gonna blend right in and compete and earn his right to be on this football team and start. So, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Sean, what was your gut reaction last night? Brandon said he took it to you and Mr. Padula after the game, obviously. What was your gut reaction when Sammy Watkins' name comes up in a trade like this?
Right. Well, let me first say that Sammy is a heck of a football player, and these are tough decisions. They really are. And last night, coming off of my first game, it was trying to digest some of that, and then to have these conversations late into the night. Not a lot of sleep last night, so difficult decision. One that we spent a lot of time discussing, and so. But these are the types of conversations that have to be had. Some conversations are easier, some are more difficult, like this one.
Does it ease the loss, the fact that, okay, you got two guys who filled those spots, but also the draft picks that are coming back and what it means for the team's future looking at the 2018 draft?
Well, let me address that in two separate ways, if I could. The first one is getting the players that we were able to get back. That's important. That we got those players back. Jordan Matthews is a wide receiver with a long resume already in a 3-year career, and he's had great production with multiple quarterbacks. And then with EJ and what he's done in his career, we thought that he would give us a chance as well at the corner position, and then you add him to the mix that we already have here with Kevon and Charisse, and the list goes on, like you saw last night. So in addition to that, to address the second part of your question, really with the draft picks, that is, as we talk about short-term and long-term, that's a big part of with planning for the future. We believe that you build through the draft, and in order to get us into a situation where we can achieve success and sustain it, building through the draft is the way to go.
Sean, going back to May when you had to make the decision on Sammy's 5th-year option, and I know you had a statement, you had spoken, you had a healthy conversation, I think is what you said with Sammy. Was there any indication in that conversation that maybe he wasn't willing to stay in Buffalo long term, and could that have been a precipitous for kind of going down this road?
Not really. That was a separate, entire conversation. Really, what the goal of that conversation was to have a healthy Sammy, and he worked extremely hard to get there. And a credit to Sammy and to the training staff, medical staff. That was an entirely separate conversation. And then obviously this came up. So we dealt with those situations separately.
With respect to, you mentioned a few times through the course of the camp, there's a lot of work for this team still to get done. This kind of adds to the pile. Blending these two guys in. What's realistic in terms of getting these guys blended in so they can contribute when we get to week 1?
Right. Well, let's take it one step at a time. They still have to get into town and take the physical, pass the physical, and then we'll take it from there. Really, the vision at this point is to get in and for us to get up to speed on terminology. That's really where it starts. And the timing of this, the timing's never exactly how you want it to be. That said, if we were going to do it, it had to happen sooner than later because of just what you mentioned, Chris, with the timing and getting acclimated to what we do, the passing game, as it relates to Jordan and the quarterback, and the terminology on defense for EJ. So that is of utmost importance.
Speaking of passing the physicals, there's been a couple of reports out of Philadelphia that Jordan Matthews might have a knee ailment. What do you know about that, and are you confident that he's okay physically?
Well, our docs have spoken with their docs, and at the present time we are comfortable. But that said, you got to go through the process of the physical examination and whatnot. So other than that, I'm not gonna comment.
How do you sell this to Tyrod? Because it looks like a move looking ahead to your next quarterback rather than a further commitment to him. You're taking a potential superstar receiver off the field for him in a contract year.
Well, I'll take it a step further. And how do you sell it to the entire team, right? And my stance with our football team and the leaders of our football team, as you mentioned, Tyrod being one of them, is to be honest and upfront with these guys, and they know that we're going to do everything possible and make every decision that's in the best interest of this football team, short and long term, and that's my responsibility. And so, I believe in clear and concise communication, and developing trust, and that's what I've hoped has developed over the course of the first 6 months, 6.5 months on the job, and we're going to continue to work our tails off to put this football team, this organization, in a position to win and sustain success.
Sean, what was
As a
that?
head coach, Sean, you're going to meet the team for the first time today as a group after this has happened. What do you say to your team? I mean, you're watching one really good player on offense and a good player on defense walk out the door. What do you tell the guys who are still here?
Right. Well, the first thing, and I've already addressed the team with this. The first thing we did was acknowledge the human element of this transaction. And there's relationships. I've got a lot of respect for those two football players that are leaving this building as players and as people. That's not easy, and it's not easy for the players in that room. That said, we have to continue to move forward. We are going in a direction, and we've got to continue to move forward, and that's what you do in this business. And you put one step in front of the other, and we move on. So I ask them to continue to trust me and our decisions in terms of what we're doing, we need to be focused on what's in front of us, and that's a practice in about 15 minutes here.
Sean, from a personal perspective, with moves of this magnitude, I mean, what were the different kind of waves of emotion from last night, considering it, sleeping on it, and then coming to the decision? Like, what was that tipping point to where you thought this is what we need to do?
Well, it was. I mean, we've gone back and forth. We looked at this situation, these two deals, in a lot of different ways: top, bottom, horizontal, vertically. I mean, every way. And we've had meeting after meeting, and then circled back and have had some other follow-up meetings. So, like I said, not a lot of sleep last night. Ran the gamut of emotions with the game, obviously. And just a note on that, I was extremely impressed with how hard our players played last night. But just, like I said, not a lot of rest. But that goes with the job, and that's a part of it. So, part of the process.
So, Sean, were you on board with this idea when it was presented to you, or did you need to be convinced?
Well, number one, I'm always going to listen. And, Brandon's job is, and his staff, they go out and they find players. And so it's our job to develop those players. So as a football coach, it's my job as Brandon approaches me with a potential situation to listen. And listen, I'm protective of our players. I'm very protective of our players, and it's got to be the right deal. It's got to be the right situation for us to do something like this. And I feel like we're moving in the right direction. I honestly believe that. And so I will end by saying this: I have the ultimate trust in Brandon and his staff.
Have you spoken with Sean? I know they practice later. Have you actually spoken as a group yet?
We have. I addressed the shortly after meeting with Sammy and Ronald. I addressed the leaders of the team first, and wanted them to know about it first, and then shortly thereafter, about 5 minutes after that, at most met with the team.
Sean, what's your message to this fan base, given that these patient considering that it is a 17-year playoff drought and the fact that they might be sick of hearing the long term and words like that? They want success. They want success.
Yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. That's why I didn't sleep last night, because these are tough decisions. As I said before, I'm a part of that. Right? When I signed my name to the dotted line, I became a part of that 17-year time period. And I see the RVs pulled out here every game. And I heard about it, and then 2 nights ago I experienced it, and then saw it again with last night. So I'm invested, and I know I feel what they feel, and we're building a football team, and we're building a football team we want to compete in the short and the long term, and to be good for a long time. And so sometimes that's a day-to-day process, and sometimes those are not easy things, easy decisions from a leadership standpoint, and I understand where they're coming from. That said, we're going to compete like crazy. We're not going out there. I think you guys know me well enough now. That's not what we're doing. We're going out there to compete and win every game, and we're focused on this next practice in a few minutes here.
Sean, can you update us on injuries and whether there's anything lingering or anything that you may have discovered after last night's game?
Yeah, really just what I shared with you last night, and just probably one additional at this time with Bakari Rambo has a little bit of a hamstring tweak at this point. So at this point, he's week to week. So, thanks, guys. I got to run.